Hi everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell, and today I'm finishing off the chapter that I started on servanthood. So if you have a Bible and you're interested in reading the scriptures, it's the scripture of Jesus at the Last Supper, and it's John 13, 1 to 17. So basically it's when Jesus gets up and he serves his disciples instead of them waiting on him, and that's the scripture that I'll be looking at today. The study questions is, the first one is, why did Jesus wash his disciples' feet? So it was an act of service. It was him setting an example for them of what to do, and the one who should have been waited on was the one serving his disciples. Because he was the teacher, he was the rabbi, it should have been the other way around. It should have been them serving him, but he was the one that did the serving. The second question is, how much of serving as a leader involves the ability to trade places either physically or emotionally with the people we lead? Explain. So it does require it in some way. We have to have some sense of empathy or some sense of compassion. We can feel for others even if we haven't walked in their shoes, even if we haven't been through their experiences. And the examples that we have here, we have out of the cold, where people sleep in a sleeping bag on the street for a night. We have different things that we can do to try to do that. When I was in South Africa, we had programs like that as well. We had soup kitchens that I served at there, the same way we have out of the cold here. And we can try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes to see how it would be for us to be in that position, to be on the other side of the table, so to speak. And the third one was, how did Jesus' understanding of himself and who he was help him to serve others? What role should self-awareness and personal perspective play in leaders' willingness to serve and how they serve their team? So Jesus knew that he was the teacher. He knew that he was the one in charge, and he knew that he was the one making the decisions, but he didn't lord it over them. He didn't tell them that I am the rabbi and I'm going to sit at the table and you serve me. He took on the responsibility of serving others, and he did know his authority with his team. And self-awareness is important, because when we are self-aware, we are better equipped to serve. When we know our strengths, we can lead from our strengths, and we can have people on our team who can make up for our weaknesses. Because if you have a team where people are constantly putting your weaknesses in your way, holding you back, not letting you get into the right position for you, you're always going to be in the same place, the same situation. But if you're in a team where people are going to put you in a place where you can work to your strengths, then that will help you. There is some going out of your comfort zone, because otherwise you don't learn anything. But if you can go a little bit out of your comfort zone, then you're in a place where you can grow your skills and you can learn new things and you can help to develop others. So I think that's what I found in the chapter, or in the section that I covered. And Jesus' willingness to serve, it's something that he prepared for from a young age, from being in the temple, from leading in the temple, and then going out into ministry. And all of us do that in our own ways. Some of us serve at soup kitchens, others of us will buy a cup of coffee and a muffin for somebody on the street. And some people, will make others feel special. Like I saw this video of Andy Murray when he came to Toronto. I'm not sure if it was in Toronto that he did it, but he took a meal to a little child, and that made the child's day. I've seen other videos of the tennis players doing that, taking a rose to somebody who's their fan or the friend of a fan. So it's things like that that make it special and that make it appealing. And so in this chapter, Jesus does the same, because he doesn't sit and wait for others to serve him. He does the serving and he helps others. And he sets the example for us as his disciples. So the leadership insights and the reflections, just to finish this off, from the 3 case studies, it says, what was David's purpose in sharing the spoils with the men who stayed behind? Why did he lead the way he did? What did he hope to gain for himself? So he wanted to honor their past service because they couldn't continue the journey with him, but he wanted to acknowledge that they had played a part in the role that he was playing as leader, and he wanted to share the spoils of the rewards with them, not to keep everything only for those who were serving in the present. And you can compare that with the chapter of the workers in the vineyard, where Jesus says, I'm going to, the one who did the paying paid everybody the same. And some had been there longer and they complained about it and said, well, you're paying all of us the same, but we work longer than them. So you can compare that and see what was Jesus trying to do with that. How was he trying to show a sense of fairness or equity? And how was David trying to show a sense of fairness or equity? Because the Old Testament also has things to teach us. And in doing that, David got their loyalty, and their loyalty would have been for life, because then they knew they had somebody who wasn't just going to forget about all the work they had put in, all the time they had been with him. And when you look and compare that with what Jesus did in the New Testament, he was basically trying to, again, let them see his authority. It's the one who's in the position of authority, making the decisions. And that's true for us as well, because beggars can't be choosers. So for me, when I'm in this position, when I'm unemployed and I don't have an income coming in, I have to do whatever I can to get a job, including putting out these videos, sharing them, sharing my knowledge with others. I don't have to do it. I could keep it to myself and do it in other ways. But by doing it this way, I reach a broader audience, and I'm not getting any income from it, at least not yet. But down the line, I do hope to get that income coming in. So it's good to compare Old Testament and New Testament. But again, we see it's the one who is in charge. It's the one who's in charge of the decision making, that's making the decisions. So too with me in my ministry, I make the decisions. I decide where I'm going to invest my time, who I'm going to serve, who I'm going to help, and how I'm going to go about it. In what ways am I going to do it? Am I going to be practical about it, as I do, and sometimes I sign up for Out of the Cold or Fred Victor, or I sacrifice $5 that I could have used to get myself something to eat, to give that money to the church? Or am I going to do it in teaching, in ministry? So there's different ways that we can look at serving and helping. And then the second question for insight is, what was Jesus' purpose in leading the disciples? What did he hope to gain himself? So in leading his disciples, Jesus was not only gaining followers, he was building them up so that they could in turn lead, and they in turn could do what he did in helping others, in serving others. And it's that same hospitality. When people come to visit us, we make sure that the place is clean, we make sure that we have food available, we share whatever we have. But it's our homes, but we don't just sit there and say, okay, this is my home, but now you bring everything and then I'm going to sit here and you serve me. So it's kind of like that. Jesus took the opportunity to serve. And then the last question is, what is your purpose in leading others? What have you hoped to gain? What should you hope to gain? So leading others is not something that I thought about. It's not something that I had seen in myself, but it's something that others saw in me, and others invited me to become a spiritual director, to do this John Maxwell, and through that I am now leading others. I've done other things. I've done mentoring for newcomers to Canada. I've done mentoring of people in the church. I've helped to set things up and organize things. But for me, it was just part of my life. It's not something that I would say, okay, this is leadership and you're being recognized for your leadership. It was just part of my everyday, day-to-day life, and it's part of my lifestyle. And out of the leadership, I have gained friends, and I have gained a sense of community, which is what I did want. And I am also building up other leaders, because here in Canada, you have so much to do. There's always things that can occupy your time. There's a lot of things that can keep you busy. So we have to choose how and where we're going to invest our time and what we're going to do. And also whether people are also taking care of us. So for example, I get invited to a lot of these rallies. I get invited to the political rallies by all the parties, the leaders in the community, Conservatives, Liberals, Green Party, NDP, they all invite me. So I do sign up, but I tell them, if you're not organizing transit, you're not organizing the transport to get there, then I'm not coming, because if I take the TTC, I have to take the subway, then I have to take 2 or 3 buses. So I don't go. If something is within walking distance, like sometimes they'll organize things at the local pubs or bars or, that are in the area, then I go. Other times they'll organize things in our churches. There's churches within walking distance here. So then I'll go. But I also take care of myself, and I take care of my needs, because especially now, things are 4 times the cost of what they used to be with all the tariffs that have come in. So all those videos that were coming out about store lentils, store rice, store tin foods, store dry soups, all of those things that, people were just saying, these predictions, these Christians, they're always going on about these things. It doesn't happen. Now it's happening. So those of us who were able to store a few extra tins of tin food or rice or things like that, it's helping us now, because we don't have to pay 4 times the amount. There's other things that, yes, you run out of it, you have an option, you do have to replace it. You have to invest in your training, your skills, your education. So those things are not optional, because if you don't invest in them, you'll get left behind. And when the jobs do come up, you won't be ready. So that's why I invest in my education, I invest in online training, I join in practical courses, because when the opportunity does come, I want to be ready. I don't want to say, oh well, I don't know this, I don't know that. And I'll give you an example with the tennis, because I was always studying and always job hunting, I didn't follow tennis for many, many years. In fact, after I left England, because it broke my heart, I wanted to stay in England, I never followed the tennis at all. And one day I was sitting in the park and I was going through my YouTube, and this tennis came on with Tennis Talk with Cam Williams, and it was Novak Djokovic. So I was like, tennis, what's that? What is tennis? And that's when I started following it. So this is only like in the last 5 years. I don't know, I didn't know any of the players. I didn't know who retired, who was still active, who was playing, because I never had the luxury of actually engaging in leisure, of just enjoying a tennis match or just enjoying going out to watch a game or enjoying the Olympics. I didn't even have my own TV. I used to go and sit in the library, because in my old condo we had a library and we had a big TV room. So I used to book that TV room and go and sit and watch the Olympics there. So I didn't have any time to have leisure time, because every moment that I was not at an event, networking, trying to make connections, I was online applying for jobs. So now I forgot all the tennis language, I forgot all the rules of the game, everything. So I went to the tennis and I was sitting there, and then I got up to go and get a drink. And the guy said to me, if you stand up again, we are going to arrest you. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? He's like, you can't stand up at this point in the match. I was like, okay, I didn't know, I'm very sorry. Like I said to him, I have not watched tennis for like the last 5 years, so I forgot the rules of it. Because normally the umpires, at least in the past, they don't do it now, but in the past they would tell you, please be quiet. From this point to this point, you cannot get up. Please don't walk around. So I didn't know. So they were so harsh with me. Anyway, that's how it goes. And I even forgot like what the terminology. I know like how the match works and that, but like if you say, oh, the fixtures, I'm like, what is the fixtures? What are you talking about? So I had to relearn all of that. And then by joining this Tennis Talk with Cam Williams, I slowly got my knowledge up to date. Because I used to ask him, what is this? What is that? What do you mean by this? So I don't get to see the matches live unless CBC shows them. But I joined the Tennis Talk with Cam Williams, and then I listened to him. And we put our comments in the chat, and that's how I learned. So it's an interesting experience. But again, that's how we learn from other leaders, and leaders create other leaders, because you learn more from watching somebody and somebody's life example than you do from anything else. And I still miss my Zimbabwe. I still miss having the fast cars and the big houses and, all those things. And if I get a chance, I will go back, because the chances of me getting that lifestyle here are zero. I don't think it's possible. I met a lady at church, her name is Ruby, and she owns a Porsche, a nice Porsche Camry. So I was standing and looking at her car, so she came to talk to me. I said to her, I like your car. She's like, you do? I said, yeah, I wish I had a car like that. She said, you never know, don't give up. But yeah, I like Porsche cars. I like the Alfa Romeo. I like the Porsche Camry. I like nice things. So we'll see. On minimum wage, do you think you're going to own a sports car? Or you think you're going to own a house? And whenever they hire me on minimum wage. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? If I get an opportunity to go back, I'm going to go back. And if I get a better lifestyle there, then I'll take it. Because here, you have a lot of qualified people, and everyone says they like me. Everyone says they trust me. Everyone says I'm a good example, but they don't give me those good paying jobs. So, that's how it is. That's how it goes. But I will continue to build other leaders and share my experience, and it's very difficult. It's very hard when you see that everybody you mentored is getting selected to be in leadership positions, to travel with Bono, to meet with all these big posh stars, and you're still sitting there. Meanwhile, you did all the work and you put in all the effort, And you like those workers in the vineyard that are saying, hey, Jesus, where's my reward? You're giving me the same minimum wage that you're giving all these new people that joined in. So I would rather have the David that came back and shared the spoils with me and that said, you know what, I know you're sick now. I know that you don't have the same health that you used to have. I know that you got anxiety working for me and for building up my kingdom. And I'm going to share the spoils of the kingdom with you in this life, not in the life to come. Because I do all the same things that my friends do. I put out applications to tutor. I put out applications for admin roles, for retail roles, for warehouse work. I don't get anything. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know what this plan of yours is, God, but it's really not working for me because I need to have an income. I need to be providing for myself and not be sitting at home making videos, which, yes, they're helping other people, but it's not benefiting my own life. And other people are invited as activists to speak, to talk, to travel, and I'm sitting at home and they're getting to go all over the world. So that's not really the plan. If people invite you to join them, like Bono invited me and the other activists, he should be making time for us. That's why I left now. I told him I'm leaving in August because you went to your big award ceremony with Joe Biden and everybody. You didn't invite any of us. You only invited your CEO. So I'm like, you know what? This is not my kind of love. My kind of love doesn't leave me out. So, and I don't leave people out. So why should I be left out? I told my cousins, my sister, everybody the same thing. I said, when you people have your parties, you all leave me out. And then where's my memories? How am I supposed to create memories with people? Family is also important to me. And they're all like, oh, you know, not this time. I'm like, oh, when? How many years have gone? A whole decade has gone. 2 decades have gone. So when is it going to be my turn to be included? That's why I left Bono now. I told him. I wrote a nice message to him on his wall. And even his team in Canada, they also upset with him for me. Because they're like, oh, why doesn't he include her? Why doesn't he invite her? Why doesn't he pay for her tickets to come? So it's not just me that's upset. The whole team is upset. So anyway, you live and learn. But I know there's a lot of artists out there, but I didn't spend 20 years investing in Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and all of them. So I don't think they're going to be inviting me very quickly and paying for my tickets, but you never know. You never know. There were a lot of artists involved in that Live Aid, and I invested a lot of time and effort in human rights work and all of that. So I also want to see my life change, and I also want to see things working out for me, not just sitting back and watching everybody else's life work out while I'm giving them the advice, telling them, oh, you shouldn't be traveling when there's a heavy snowstorm like that, watching planes get overturned. But I don't know if and when it's going to turn around. And I told my friends in Zimbabwe also, they're like, stay there, stay there. They're like, our children are all complaining. You guys all went overseas and you're all complaining. We said, yeah, we're all complaining because we all want to come home. We're sick of this shit. And they're like, no, stay there, stay there. There's no future in Zimbabwe. I'm like, yes, there's a future. If we all come home and we all build up the country, then there'll be a future. If you all keep telling us, don't come back, then there's not going to be any future, is there? So anyway, so that was the chapter on this 21 qualities of leaders in the Bible, and on Jesus and service and the Last Supper, the institution of the Eucharist and how he served. And that's what I do. I'm a spiritual director. I'm an HR professional. I have my CHRL, which means I'm a certified HR leader. I'm a Maxwell speaker. But I serve in my community. And I help and I do whatever I can. The unfortunate thing is that with all my serving and helping, I'm landing up a pauper, which I don't think is the way that it's supposed to go. I don't think that's the plan that God has for us to land up being poor, destitute, not having an income, not being able to go to events that we're invited to. And I tell the politicians, if you're not organizing transit for me or transport or carpooling, I'm not coming. I told them. Because at the end of the day, they need us as much as we need them. And I'm not going to be voting for people who are going to put me in welfare. I'm going to be voting for people who are going to create good jobs, create a good economy, and who are going to open up opportunities for us. The same way I'm not going to give Bono any more of my time. Because if he's not going to invest in me, if he's not going to make time for me, if he's not bothered in getting to know his volunteers who have been with him for over 20 years, then why should I continue? And it's not just me saying it. And the people that are coming from Africa now, they are being very vocal about it. They'll stay for one day, and if they find out that, oh, he's not interested, they're like, we're not coming back. At least I gave it time. I gave it a lot of time and a lot of thought, and I'm like, you know what? It's time to move on. And people don't blame me. His team doesn't blame me. Because they also have been telling him, you need to come, you need to spend time here, you need to start including the people who have been helping you. And he's not interested. So you think if Jesus had done that, people would have stayed with him? You think the women would have stood by the cross? I don't think they would have. So I'll leave you with that, and that's it for today. And I'll be starting a new chapter tomorrow. If you know of anyone looking to hire in retail, in warehouse work, in admin, whatever it is, as long as it's a decent salary and I can make ends meet, then contact me. And I know that retail work pays well. They're paying like $24 an hour. So why not? I'm a fit person. I can manage it as long as I have an accommodation for a day shift and an 8 hours a day shift. I can do it. Why not? I'm not that old, and I'm not decrepit, and I have a lot of skills to offer.